Well, joining us here today on Primetime Local News is Canadian country star Wes Mack. He's talking about some of his new music that's out right now. We're talking about the song today, Don't Change. So, Wes, what's the story behind that? And was this something that you were working on during that quarantine pandemic downtime that you had?
Yeah, so the beginning of the pandemic was kind of interesting for me in that I went on this like early in March. I went on this like 4 day, supposed to be like a birthday trip out to my cabin. It's one of my favorite places to go, and I planned flights there for 4 days. And 2 days into it, all the like lockdown measures happened, and my flight home was canceled. And I was just like, oh, I don't really think I need to go home. There's like nothing to go back to. Like going back to a big city doesn't really feel like a good idea, anyways. So I ended up staying there for half a year in this like fairly isolated place. And I had a bunch of studio gear stored out there in the shed, and I went through and picked it apart and like pulled out all these. Some of these items like kind of hadn't been dusted off in like many years, and put together like a decent little studio. I had someone in Vancouver ship me a couple of items of mine, like a couple microphones. I was like, okay, I can do this. And yeah, I just started doing a bunch of writing, and it was an interesting time, man. I feel like you kind of get to reset and recalibrate because with everything that sort of changed in the world, and the like how you all of a sudden it's like you had no plans, you had nowhere to be. It became this sort of more additive thing where it's like, cool, I don't have any pieces on the board right now. What do I want to put on the board? Like, what do I want to work on? What do I want to write? It like was maybe convenient for me in some senses in that I just put out my last record. I'd done all the promo for it. I feel really fortunate and grateful that I didn't get tremendously like COVID didn't hit the day I was dropping an album or something. I was at a phase where my plan for last year was to do a lot of writing and like try and build the next record. So that's, more or less what I did. Um, Don't Change is like a very simple song. At the end of the day, it's about like a love in life that ends up staying constant through like all the changes and things that life throws at you. So once I'd written that, I felt like, oh, I don't need to be, it's not so tremendously topical that it's like a song about COVID by any means, but I feel like it kind of rings truthful of like, there's certain stuff that's like good to change in life. And then there's a few things that, some constants and anchors that are important to have.
In your words, how do you feel the way that your career has gone so far? You're pretty well known here in the country. You have a couple of hit singles that a lot of us know you for. Talk about your progression as an artist from now compared to maybe a couple years ago.
Maybe for me, I'm a little more, I don't know, you gain maybe some wisdom, you gain some jade, you make decisions of like, again, I can't help but feel like this last year has made me think like, oh, like life's more finite than you often like to think of it as. And with the amount of time you have, maybe this isn't really answering your question, but like I feel more aware of what I want to be doing, and that it's like, oh cool, I'm kind of in the like prime of my life right now. And I often haven't felt like that. I think through most of my years, I always feel like, oh, I'm like going to get to this place where I'm able to do the work I really want to do. And at some point last year, I was like, no, I'm there. Like I'm the age I should be. I have the resources to do it. I have the experience. There's nothing stopping me but myself from just like sitting down, writing the album I want to do, writing the films I want to make, like creating the stuff I want to do. So maybe it's just having a little bit more self-awareness in that, and wanting to like specifically choose like this is the sound I want to have, and this is the story I want to tell, and the what I want to leave behind in this world.
One thing that I found really fun about you, and I know you and I had a good chat about this off camera for a while, was your acting career, and you had some roles in some pretty decent movies like Power Rangers and Cold Pursuit with Liam Neeson. So, is it almost safe to say that if music doesn't work out for you, we can see you taking on a full-time acting career?
I think for me, I finally found my answer to this question years ago, because I often was asked like, oh, which one would it be? And the thing about music for me is I'll always play music because I can do it on a very like small personal level. Like I almost every day will pick up my guitar or like sit at a piano and mess around, either writing songs, singing other people's songs, or just playing. I find it's just good for my brain. Um, it makes me really certain that like, oh, yeah, music's always gonna be knock on wood, gonna always be part of like my life. And I like putting out music to the world because it's my way of communicating with people. Acting is a different like side of my creativity as is directing. I like to think I'll do all of them for my entire career, but like the difference with acting, maybe like if you're acting in films or TV, is that you kind of have to like get hired on a job. There's got to be an infrastructure. There's got to be a camera there somewhere along the lines. I can go and just, I mean, I guess I could just act alone in my room, but there's something that feels missing about that. So I know I'm always going to be doing music. I don't, in terms of like spending more time on acting, weirdly, I'm right now sort of hired on a few different projects, and I'm at this inconvenient phase in terms of interviewing where I've signed things that say I can't talk about any of them. So which I realize just sounds like a terrible tease, but it's still early days enough that I don't want to get fired off of all of them. But it seems like I'm probably going to have a bunch more acting stuff going on in the next little bit here, and then I hope to, you know, like I'm halfway through making this album. I want to finish the rest of it. So I don't know, man. I hope to be able to sort of duck and weave through both of them.
Wes, I really appreciate your time. The new single, Don't Change, is out now everywhere on all major streaming platforms. Wes, thanks a lot for joining us today.